Now I like this one. I like this one because this is how very often you're going to get your data given to you in a research journal. Very often in a research journal, you're going to have your data given to you in summary form, just like it is here. So take a look at the next data set down. Do children diagnosed with ADHD? Go ahead and consume that little snippet of data there, and we'll analyze it momentarily. Hopefully. If time permits us, it'll be the very last class. That's the ANOVA. So Danielle is looking forward to the washing your hands with soap versus antibacterial soap versus something else, versus water alone, I believe. There's antibacterial, normal soap, something, and then just water. And counting bacteria on it. The problem with that one is you have 4 different averages. You've got antibacterial average, you've got antiseptic average, you've got, I don't know the 4th one, I can't remember, and you've got the control group average. So the problem with that is making it fit. The problem is as soon as you get past 2, it gets challenging mathematically because you run out of dimensions. That's why I hope you have time to get to it. It'll be week 10. If we do. Yes, just keep that data sheet with you. We'll keep marching through it as we go. All right. First of all, I want you guys to draw the distinction and see why this one is like the Breaks test that we just did, and it's not like the commercials shows directly above it. Why is it 2 independent samples? Why is it 2 independent samples and not 1 sample? Explain it. Give me a couple reasons. Emily, give me one. Go ahead.
You have 2 different groups of people.
You have 2 different groups of people. But aren't they tied together somehow?
Yeah, but you're trying to figure out the difference.
Right, but can I take, like, I love this, I'm playing devil's advocate. What if I take one of the ADHD kids and compare that kid perfectly with one of these kids who's not ADHD over here? Can I just do that?
They're 2 different kids. They're not related.
Oh, they're 2 different kids. They're not related. There's no genetic tie. Thank you. Not to mention the fact that eventually I'd run out because there were only 152, there were 152 ADHD kids and 139 non-ADHD kids. So if I start trying to pair them off, I'm going to run out of non-ADHD kids in the study. That's one giveaway. But the more important thing is what Emily just said and Danielle just echoed, is there's no reason that you can... Imagine the 152 kids in a pile right here, and the 139 over here. How are you... Not literally a pile, but like in this sample order, sorry. But how would you decide how to pair them? And the answer is you shrug your shoulders, because there's no way to pair them. I mean, maybe you could do a fun study where you could do like identical twins or something like that. But this isn't about that. This is about ADHD versus non-ADHD, and in all other ways they're identical. Beautiful. Love it. Thank you. Gender's mixed into the study in this one. So gender's not unaccounted for nor accounted for. It's just considered equal across both groups. So that's good. And that's a very important research type question to ask is everything the same in the study except for what you're measuring? The answer is yes. One other thing to think about. Whenever you encounter this kind of study and you're trying to decide what they did, ask yourself how many samples and how often each sample was measured. When you have 2 independent samples, you have 2 samples that are each measured 1 time. When you've got a matched pair test, like the commercials, you've got 1 sample measured twice. See the difference? 2 samples, each measured 1 time. The ADHD kids' brain volume was measured. The non-ADHD kids' brain volume was measured. With the shows of the commercials, we measured 1 sample twice. The show volume, the commercial volume. That's 1 sample. The volume measured 2 different ways, show and commercial. So that's the big takeaway when you're experiencing this in your studies and in your lives. How many times was the sample measured? If it was measured once and there are 2 samples, they're independent. They're independent from each other. Beautiful. Beautiful. Good. We'll see more of these. We'll see more of these. How do they measure brain volume? That's a damn good question. I'm guessing ultrasound. If I had to guess, I could guess ultrasound, some kind of a wave pass through. Just like the way they identify anything else inside the body. I'm guessing. A bigger question I would have is why would they care? Why would they care about brain volume? I don't know. I don't know, but I just couldn't resist this one because of ADHD. So, what are we interested in, friends? What are my variables? We know it's mu. Define them for me.
Average brain volume of ADHD.
Average brain volume of ADHD kids.
Average.
And how about down here?
Average brain volume of
ADHD kids. Yes. Those are our variables. Average brain volume of ADHD and non-ADHD kids. Love it. Love it. What's the claim?
mu1 is less than mu2.
Is everybody okay with that? Joseph saying yes, I like that too. That's the question. It appears, if you look at the sample data, you'll notice that the average brain volume of ADHD kids is about a little over 1 liter. Whereas a non-ADHD kid is 1.1 liters. And you might say to yourself, what's a tenth of a liter? Like, what does that matter? Well, I don't know. Again, I'm not sure what we're measuring and why we're measuring. But that's the claim. The claim is that the ADHD kid's brain volume is smaller than the non-ADHD kid's brain volume. Beautiful! And the opposite, of course, is the opposite. Love it. So we're looking for a less than in this case. We're looking for these guys to be smaller than these guys. By subtraction, that'll be a negative number, which will place the interesting area over here. We're looking over here. Now, of course, we can subtract the difference. We can do 1059.4 minus 11.04. 1104.5, subtract it and see where that 0.1. And we know it's negative, it's going to be over here somewhere. But the question is where? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Where do you guys think it is? 0.1. 0.1 liters, or 100 milliliters. Where is it going to be? Here? No idea. Good, that's fantastic. Because in order to have an idea, you have to know what that standard deviation measure in the denominator is. And it's too much of a pain to crunch manually. That's why we rely on technology. We'll come back to that in a second, though. Type 1 error would be?
Say that ADHD brain volume is less than non-ADHD when it is not.
Boom! Okay, no complaint with that whatsoever. Perfect. False positive. Cry wolf. Saying the ADHD kids have smaller brain volumes when in fact they don't. Boom. Love it. How about type 2? Good. That's going to be a type. There's going to be a false negative saying that, you know what, ADHD brain volumes are not smaller. But they actually are, you just missed it. What's worse, in your opinion, in this case?
I have no idea.
No idea? Okay, good. If I knew what they were trying to get at with brain volume, I'd have a better idea. Here's my gut feeling, just because I consume so much crap statistics in the media, my vote would be a type 1 would be worse. This is my vote. Because if it's a type 1, it's more likely to be published, right? Because small p-values, which would be a type 1, are more likely to show up into a journal. And if it shows up in a journal, who gets hold of it? Oh, good! How do parents get hold? Because the media picks it up first. Feed it out there without context. Parents pick it up. What do parents then think? Oh my God, little Johnny's got a small head. Or go somewhere with that, right? And then all of a sudden, small brain volume becomes a bad thing. This is my question about what are we checking brain volume for? Is the implication there's a correlation between brain volume and, say, cognitive function? Is there? I don't know. I'm asking the psychologist in the room.
And if teachers found out, they would subconsciously treat that child.
Perhaps, yes? Oh, little Johnny, he's got a tiny little head. We better take care of him. I can see him walking around with calipers. Oh God. Oh God. Tracked based on brain size or skull width. That's my gut. My gut is a false positive would be worse because that is going to make it into the news and that most likely is going to be misconstrued. A false negative, you probably won't even hear about a false negative, right? You probably won't even hear about it because as the article I read that Dai sent along indicated, negative test results won't get published very often. Please, go ahead.
They probably want to test it so that they can test at birth or sooner that the child might have that.
Oh, so identify. Oh, good. Early detection. Okay, that's good. And I don't know. Was this infants? Was this children? I don't remember. I didn't make a note of the
But they
ages.
can find the difference between non-ADHD and ADHD.
Sure. Hey, speaking of that, thank you for that. What's a crucial question we have to ask?
What is ADHD?
what is ADHD? That's a crucial question, right? We can definitely find a difference in measurement. That's easy to do. That's mathematics. That's just sending an ultrasound into the head and measuring and then looking at the number. But you have to make sure you've got the kids classified correctly, yeah? Not by some gut feel. Who often makes ADHD calls? So very often, in school-age kids, yes? And very often ADHD, I mean, you're talking to a guy who's diagnosed very, very young, it's based on behavior. And it's hard to know whether it's just rambunctiousness or if it actually is a disorder, ADHD. I've been told that ADHD really isn't a disorder. It's actually a blessing. Hyper awareness of many, it's almost like juggling mental things, where you can pay attention to lots of things at once. My mountain biking friends say it's crazy that they've never seen me crash poorly mountain biking, because even if as I'm starting to crash, I'm 5 feet up on a log and I'm starting to crash, my brain and my eyes scan around me and find something to grab onto or find my exit. Where they'll fall and crash and like break their arm. I'll fall and either get away from the bike or land the bike and ride away. And I blame it on ADHD. Because as I'm riding, I'm also processing everything around me. So it's almost like hypersensitivity, which is exhausting. I mean, it is exhausting mentally. But at the same time, that's one of the hallmarks of ADHD. So it's interesting. An interesting thing to study. The more I learn about it, the more I'm kind of thankful that I have it.
Well, and that kind of stuff, we need it.
Kinda.
You know?
You think about like survival of the species. Like I'm gonna be walking down the road and I know there's a saber-toothed tiger over here. It's gonna gut me.
So it's actually like an evolutionary trait.
That's one of the arguments, is that we should reclassify it as not a disorder, but actually kind of an advantage. Now, there's some arguments against that too. Trust me, having it, I know that there's some arguments against having it as well.
You'd
But
be a
anyway,
great psychologist.
what's that?
I said you'd be a good
I just love asking questions, just like you guys are doing, right? That's the best thing, is these should raise more questions. Good. Excellent. Let's test the damn thing. We're almost out of time. Let's test it. Okay, so now the reason I like this data set, besides the fact that it's about attention deficit, which is super fun to talk about anyway, is it's the data